Aubrey, when was the last time you had a cold?
I thought you were going to say, Aubrey, you're simply the best because you were
Oh,
singing
darn
that
it.
song
Oh,
before.
gosh.
Now
Okay,
I'm
start over.
disappointed.
No, I'm just kidding.
I haven't had a cold in a while, luckily. My kids will get colds, and miraculously, I usually don't get them. Or if I do, I ignore it. I pretend I
Yeah,
don't, so I don't even remember having it.
I know, right? Yeah, I can in the past, like literally like 4 years, I think I've gotten something like a bad cold or flu from James like twice. Usually like he just gets it, like you said, and like I don't get it, and life goes on.
Life goes on.
But right now I do have a little bit of a cold. And talking would be easier if I did not have a cold. And that is simply the truth.
Well, I hope
Now,
it's the
why
most
did I
paltry
try to?
cold you've ever had in your life.
It is a paltry cold. It is paltrier than the cold my son got. Guys, I'm so proud of us. We just worked into that conversation just totally naturally. Some great adjectives that we're going to talk about today.
Yes, and these are some of the trickiest comparative adjectives in the
Tricky.
English.
There's another one.
Tricky. These are the trickiest adjectives in the English language because it has sort of a very specific rule. And we had a great question about this. So we're excited to answer it for you because these are really, really high level words for task 1 writing. You can also use them on the speaking exam. So you definitely want to get out your vocabulary notebook here.
Totally, guys. So let's talk about that question first that started these ideas we're going to talk about today. And remember, guys, these are all adjectives that you can definitely for sure use in academic task 1 writing, where you're comparing numbers, comparing sizes, comparing anything, because we're talking about comparative and superlative grammar rules today. But of course, guys, even though these adjectives are perfect for that part of the IELTS exam, you need interesting adjectives to describe big and small throughout the IELTS exam, guys, not just academic task 1, but general training, all the speaking tests, writing task 2. So it doesn't matter what part of IELTS you're worried about, guys, you need today's grammar lesson. And just to remind you guys that in our 3 Keys IELTS online course, for writing task 1, we give you all the grammar structures you need for a 7 or higher. And this isn't just individual grammar rules like you're getting today, which you do need to understand these. But guys, you also need the entire structures, sentence structures. That's what gives you the 7 or higher for grammar, that variety. So if you want everything organized for you in one place so you get that 7 or higher for your next IELTS exam, go to allearsenglish.com/KEYS because it's available now and it's guaranteed to increase your IELTS score. All right.
Speaking of 3 Keys, this question was actually from a 3 Keys student, Fernando, in the 3 Keys Facebook group. Awesome. Because when you guys purchase our course, you also get access to this Facebook group. You can ask any question about IELTS, test questions, grammar, like Fernando did, and we're in there giving you answers you know you can trust. So here's Fernando's question. What is the correct superlative and comparative forms of paltry? Is it paltrier, paltriest, or more paltry, the most paltry? I have found both of them on the internet. Yep. Such a good question. And there's a reason you're seeing them both on the internet, but there's so many things about English grammar where natives will just make mistakes. And so if you see both, you might think, ooh, maybe that's a mistake and one is correct. So I love that he sent in this question. I already gave him his answer, but we want to share this with you guys today as well.
So general rules for comparatives and superlatives, right? If it is a 1-syllable adjective like vast, for example, right? How do we turn a 1-syllable adjective into a comparative, Aubrey?
Yeah, so for a regular one, right, we just add ER. So for that, we would just say vaster. And you guys know there are irregular, you know not to say, for example, if the word is good, you're not going to say gooder or goodest. You know, these are irregular. So it's best, better, but these are for regular adjectives. You can take this rule for a 1-syllable add ER instead of adding more. You would just say vaster.
Exactly. So any adjective that is one syllable, except for irregulars, right? Just like Aubrey said. So on academic task 1, because that is the framework we are providing today for these adjectives, you could say that sales were vaster in 2001 as compared to 2002, or we could say the increase, the vastest increase was seen. Even that sounds weird, but like if you write it, it's perfect because the grammar is perfect. It just sounds weird to say. The vastest increase was seen in 2006, right?
Exactly.
So those are perfect sentences you could use in task 1. So those are one syllable adjectives, right? Now, two syllable adjectives, this is where there's a few different rules and examples you might see online, guys. So paltry means little. Vast means huge, in case you didn't know that, guys. Paltry means tiny, insignificant almost. So it's two syllables, but it ends in Y. So this is a switcheroony adjective. You can add ER or you could put more before it. You can't do both at the same time. You have to choose, but they are both considered grammatically correct. Like technically, we're supposed to just take off the Y and add IER and say paltrier or paltriest. Technically, that is the rule. You'll see that is correct, quote unquote, most often. But to be honest, saying more paltry or the most paltry, that is also considered grammatically correct these days.
Yes. And you will see both online, both in examples like Fernando saw, and both rules, right? Some websites you're going to see, they'll say both are accepted. And some maybe you'll just see one or the other, but as a generally accepted grammar, you can do either. You can say most paltry, most paltriest, or not most paltriest, most paltry, more paltry. Just like you said, don't do both. Don't say most paltriest. That's where the error comes in.
That's awesome. So again, if we're using this in academic task 1, guys, or maybe in a general task 1, if you have to write about some sort of job or business related topic, right? We can use these structures as well. We could say, instead of saying like the lowest number was in, 2020, you would be like the paltriest number was seen in 2020, right? So a couple other adjectives that we hear students wonder about what is correct. Let's throw these out there because, guys, we're telling you right now, they're both correct. So easy, 2 syllables, ends in Y. Crazy, 2 syllables, ends in Y. Tricky, 2 syllables, ends in Y. So you can't use more and ER. Make a choice. Either one is correct. So you could say easier, right? I think more easy sounds bad. That sounds very incorrect to me. What do you think about that?
It's really interesting that I will hear both. And sometimes I'll have to take a second and think, and I'm like, no, I guess they're both right? We just generally, we accept both for these, just if they end in a Y, if they have 2 syllables and end in a Y. But that's going to happen depending on where you're from geographically, what you hear more often. One is going to sound better to you based on what you heard growing up.
It's true. But we're here today to tell you about what's best for your IELTS score, right? So always err on the side of caution, as they say. So if it's a 2 syllable adjective that ends in Y, just take away the Y and add IER because that is always going to be correct. So if you're in doubt, right, do that. Paltrier, right? Easier, crazier. That's going to be correct more often than adding more before it. Because like I said, I wouldn't say more easy. Like that sounds really wrong to me. Same with crazy. Like I know I hear people say more crazy, but it doesn't sound correct to me. I would say crazier is the more grammatically correct.
I think it's a good point that it would be wise to just choose one and stick to it. Because even though the examiner might accept both, you don't want to throw yourself off for other maybe 3 syllable adjectives or ones. So if you can pick one rule, pick one, choose and stick with it, I think you're going to feel more confident.
Exactly. So For all other adjectives, guys, two-syllable adjectives that don't end in Y, and for all adjectives that are 3 syllables or more, you're always going to add more or most before the adjective. You're not going to change the word itself. So for example, meager. Meager is 2 syllables, no Y. So we have to say more meager or most meager. Now, meager is a great synonym for small. Now, let's look at a word that means big. Let's say massive. Massive is like huge, right? 2 syllables, no Y. So you're going to say more massive for the comparative or the most massive for the superlative. Okay.
Keep in mind, guys, this will help you avoid repetition. You cannot say lower, lowest, over and over, higher, highest. You need these synonyms, especially where they're much higher band. So you're avoiding that band 6 vocab, you're avoiding repetition. This is vital for academic task 1, but also for speaking, like you were saying, there's a good chance you'll need to say higher, lower, and you can't repeat vocabulary. You want to replace that with this much more high scoring vocabulary.
Totally. I could see so many of these adjectives, guys, paltry, vast, massive, meager, all of these adjectives you I'm going to say must use in speaking part 1, because you're definitely going to talk about like small and big. You're describing your home, you're describing, your city, your neighborhood, whatever. You're going to say big and small. So instead use today's adjectives, guys. And now you can use them with the correct grammar as well. All right, guys. So remember, we give you all the vocab and grammar and everything you need to get a 7 or higher on every part of the IELTS exam in our online course, 3 Keys IELTS. So definitely, guys, do check that out. Choose the package that works best for you. We have 3 options. And also, guys, remember that it doesn't matter what version of IELTS you're taking. We have a specific course for you. Academic, general, computer, it's all there. So guys, go to allearsenglish.com/KEYS to check out our IELTS course.
And whichever package you choose, you get into our 3 Keys Facebook group, which is a private group that is so helpful. So we will see you guys in the Facebook group. And I'll see you next time, Jessica.
All right, Aubrey, have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.